Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Channel 5 News. I'm Noah,
I'm Ben.
and we have a very special episode for you today. We have somehow managed to bring back a famous Greek mathematician, Archimedes, back from the dead for a very special interview, only seen on Channel 5 News. We will now roll the clip of the interview. Hi, guys, I'm very luckily here, joined by famous Greek mathematician, Archimedes. How are you?
Good, how about you?
Pretty good. So, basically, first off, can you tell us a little bit about your life?
I'm Archimedes, and I was born in 287 BC. I was born in Syracuse, which is this little city on the island of Sicily. I spent some time in Egypt, but most of my years were spent in Greece, and, I'm a pretty well-respected mathematician.
And a very egotistical one as well. At your time in Egypt, I heard you went to Alexandria. Where exactly is that, and why did you go there?
So I spent most of my time in the library, actually, in Alexandria. But I also learned from this very respected, and by this, it's not egotistical because it's not me, but I learned from Euclid, and I learned most of the stuff I use in my later days from him.
So what did you do with your knowledge once you came back to Greece?
So I actually started publishing some of my work with other mathematicians such as Conon of Samos or Eratosthenes. And, I even got to a point where I became very good friends with the king at the time.
I heard you were also a pretty big part in the defense of Sicily during the siege of the Romans.
So yeah, back in that time, I was pretty good friends with the king, actually, King Here. And I helped them defend the island of Sicily from the siege of the Romans. When basically a siege is when they cut off all transportation, food, reinforcements from isolated place. So like an island is especially easy to besiege. So what I did was I just buffed up the Greek defense on the island of Sicily, and what can I say? It worked.
It obviously didn't work because the island of Sicily ended up getting captured by the Romans. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me anymore. I mean, my friend King here did die, but it's over 2,000 years ago. It doesn't really matter anymore. But yeah. So my most prestigious accomplishment, at least mathematically wise, because as I already said, I've done a lot of contributions to wartime weapons. But anyways, mathematically wise, I think it would be pi, and not the PIE pi, the PI pi. At that time, I had originally approximated pi to around 3.1429, which was later revised to what we now have it. But what I did was I first got a 12-sided polygon, enlarged that to 24, and then 48, and then finally 96. So I counted all 96 sides, did my magic, and yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on what formulas use pi?
Well, it's used everywhere, quite honestly. Like in the world of mathematics, pi is one of those hard standards that is pretty much used in everything. But a couple of examples might include the area of a circle, which is pi times the radius of the circle squared. Of course, the circumference of the circle, which is pi times the diameter of the circle. We go a little further into 3D objects. The surface area of a sphere would be 4 pi radius squared. And that's just the simple ones. If I could get into at least 200 other formulas, and that's a fact. You can search it up on Google, which we somehow have now. But not only did I actually contribute to pi, my next biggest accomplishment was finding the weight of, or the mass of an object, to be fair, which involved putting the object in the water and measuring how much water it displaced in the container. And that at its center would equal the weight of the object that displaced the water. So, that's where you get the image of me running down the street butt naked yelling, "Eureka! Eureka!"
Geez, Archimedes, I don't know if I could ever look at you the same again. Moving on though, could you give us a detailed description of how you approximated pi?
Of course, how could I not? It's one of the greatest innovations in the mathematical world. But unfortunately, these old frail arms of 2,000 years, 2,000 something odd years, aren't able to draw anymore, especially since we don't have chalkboards anymore. So I will get my I can't talk anymore. My glamorous assistant to do it for me.
Okay, so what I started with here is a six-sided polygon, a hexagon. I essentially added a couple of sides onto it to make a 12-sided polygon, and so on and so forth until 96 sides. It was a lot of work. I'm smart that way. And when I got to 24, it looked more or less like a circle already. So I made my first calculations, added all of the side lengths up, and got my first value of pi, which was approximated at around 2.4 something. After I got to around 96 sides, it became more accurate, 3.14 something, a couple digits after that. But yeah, obviously right now we have better technology, so we can draw it better and calculate sides more efficiently, but that's how I initially did it. Can you see these sides? Do you think they can see these sides? That's what I thought. So yeah, welcome to thanks for listening to our lesson on pi. The way I calculated for pi. This is radius. Radius equals 1. So if radius equals 1, we can figure out this length by using the calculation the square root of 3 over 2 r. And r, since r is 1, it's just the square root of 3 over 2. So this entire length is 3 over 2 square, the square root of 3 over 2. And since this entire length is 1, we can calculate for this portion of the radius by going 1 minus 3 squared minus 2. Over 2, sorry. And we know this is exactly half of this. So the way we figure out this side length is using the Pythagoras theorem, which consists of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the way we do that with the 90-degree angle is a squared, so r over 2 to the power of 2, plus b squared, 1 minus 3r to the power of 2 over 2, times 12, since there are 12 sides, because we've only shown one here, times 12 equals around 3.14. That's the approximate value that I got after these calculations.
After editing this video, I would like to disclaim to you guys that once Archimedes came back from life, he had discovered what drugs were, and while recording this video, he was highly under the influence of weed.
Pi. Deeper, that's what I think. Oh, wow.
Now back to the video.
So that's how I calculated the value of pi to as close as I could, because I'm a very smart mathematician. And yeah, just keep calm and pi on.
Thank you, Archimedes, for giving us that extraordinary explanation, a very long one, might I add, of how to approximate pi. Now, can you please explain to us what are some of the most common equations that use pi?
So one of the more common ones, or the quite easier ones to use, would be the formula to find an area of a circle, which is pi times the radius squared. And honestly, as long as you know the radius or the diameter, you're set for the area of a circle. A little more complex one would be 4 pi times the radius squared, which is the surface area of a sphere. So a quite simpler way to figure out the value of pi, despite all of the trouble that we've put you through with all those equations, would be to simply divide the circumference of the circle by the diameter. So just remember, pi equals circumference over diameter. And one little point that I forgot to mention
back in my day was the way you find out the volume of a sphere is 4 pi radius squared over 3. So it's essentially the same thing for surface area of a sphere divided by 3.
So, I forgot to explain something earlier on in the videos, but essentially, if we put it in what you guys use with spreadsheets and Excel documents, it'll look something like this. So, number of sides, as you can see in this beautiful spreadsheet that I totally made because my ancient brain can take it. That's supposed to be number of sides. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. The side length of each one of those sides is one unit. Half of that side length, of course, between here and here would be 0.5. Length A, length B between the side of the triangle and the edge of the circle would be B, and essentially if we wanna calculate side length of A, we know this is 1, we know this length is 1, so we would use the Pythagoras theorem and figure out A essentially. So A squared plus 0.5 squared plus 1 squared, which is just 1. What we do is C squared, which is 1, minus 0.5 squared would equal A squared. A squared by that formula equals 0.8660254, and and then to figure out the B value, which is that really small one there, we would just do the exact same thing as what we did with this one, except for flip it over with the Pythagoras. This is still 1, right? And now that we know what the length of A is, we simply go 1 minus the length of A will equal the length of B. So I didn't even have to use the Pythagoras theorem, but I could have, but I didn't because I'm smart. And essentially B would equal 0.1339746, which if you add to 0.8660254 will equal to 1. Now, the new side is S1 here. S1 here we can calculate by using the Pythagoras theorem this time. 0.5 squared plus whatever B squared is will equal S1 squared. So it's really simple, honestly, and by that same logic we figure out the length. We have to divide that by 2 since there are 2 lengths there, and it equals 3. As we progress down, it gets more and more accurate. See, I only did up to the 96 sides, but you know, some smart mathematician in your time, obviously not as smart as me, did this. So 393,216 sides. That gives you 3.14159265. And the true value of pi, the first digits of that is very correct to that. So yeah, I hope you learned something through this video, and like, comment, and subscribe.
We hope you enjoyed the interview with Archimedes and learned a lot about how pi was created. We'd also like to thank you for watching this episode on Channel 5, and we hope that you come tune in with us again. Thank you.